yourself and take the dreams off the shelf. Go on, share your gift. Yeah, your gift is a seed. You can easily be the change that we need. Keep your mind alert and your heart with peace. Be the change that we want to see. Yeah, go and share your gift. Yeah, your gift is a seed. You can easily be the change that we need. Keep your mind alert and fill your heart with peace. Be the change that we want to see. Yeah. Okay, we're good. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mentality Unchained. This is a special episode that I'm going to do here today. We got Soar Radio in the house. We got the owners and CEOs of Soar Assembly, Soar Radio, Soar Everything. So, these guys are really soaring to new heights, and we wanted to make sure that we showcase them for all the things that they're doing. I know Miss Rebecca is doing some consulting stuff on her own as well, so we want to make sure we highlight that. And so I want you guys to welcome Justin and Rebecca Francis. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
I appreciate it. Hey, man, look, let's just have some fun here. Let's just talk, right? Let's just be real. Yep. So everybody know that you guys are into the music. We know now Rebecca's getting into the consulting and things of that nature. But I want to go back because I know people need to hear a backstory, right? Like, so tell the people a little bit about you guys before you got together, and then, how you guys got together to be this power couple.
Go ahead.
You go first. You're older.
Listen, no, so I've what I can remember, I've always had a passion to write from about age 12. So, I mean, being a adolescent and growing, and music was something that I always had a passion for. Gotcha. So I started writing at age 12, going through some life experiences that were kind of traumatic that led me to writing. I've always been a church boy, so growing up in the church has always been my foundation. And I was raised in a single parent home. My father was around, but I was raised in a single parent home, so I got to experience life that way. And then started after about high school. Well, towards the end of high school, I started writing music that got placed. One of my first songs were placed by a gospel group called by the name of Joshua's Troop. Okay, and I landed some other placements from there. I landed at, I think, age 18. I was the youngest Sony BMG New Haven publisher at that age to land, I think, 5 national placements. So I did that, kept writing, kept getting at it, and then I started leading praise and worship at various churches. And before you knew it, I started developing a passion for ministry from the ends of preaching and teaching. And I mean, there's so many layers to it. I'm just trying to give you a quick synopsis.
That's cool.
Of that. Soar Radio played a part, all of that in there. But that's just to give you a little bit up until when we met. Yeah, kind of
gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. We're gonna get into a little of that stuff in a minute too. So, but Ms. Rebecca, what's up with you, man?
I don't really have nothing that interesting.
Come on now. When somebody says that, they got a lot to say. So what's up with you? Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Well, I am. Most people always just say, "Oh, you're Pastor Malone's daughter." So a lot of people don't even know my name. So Rebecca Francis. Most people know me as Shay. Gotcha. I'm the youngest of all of their children. I think my youngest brother is 11 years older than me. So that just goes to show you I was like what they call the honeymoon child. Yeah. So I kind of just came in pretty low key and went to school and did my job, Yeah. And then I graduated a little bit early and went off to college a little bit early. And then that's where most of my time after college was spent caring for my daughter. So that's where a lot of people kind of learn more about me, maybe from a different aspect of just not little Shay anymore, but now Shay with a child. But that child had she had a special need that actually brought me back to Rockford, where I probably would still be in Alabama right now. Alabama A&M is where
HBCU.
I had 1 year left, and I was really excited to complete it. But taking care of Bella was more important, so when I moved back here, I kind of just stayed at home as I figured out what was actually wrong, and going back and forth to the hospitals and staying and living in the hospital for a while. We finally figured out what was wrong, and I kind of just stayed a little low key. And then that's kind of what, that's how I met Justin.
Okay. That's how you met Justin.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't have much outside of, my education for a really long time. And then when I had her story went viral, and a lot of people wanted to ask questions and they wanted to know more. And then people started asking me like, well, how can I get my child well? And how can you help me? And so I've spent over almost 10 years really encouraging other moms to be what other people would consider confrontational, but an advocate for their kids so that they can get the outcomes that they want.
A lot of people that watch my show, it's all about mental health, and it's about Black mental health, culture, community. And so I want to step into that realm a little bit, because you both sound like you guys have been through a lot. Like you talking about your writing, how a lot of the stuff you wrote came out of that. Speak on that a little bit. Like, what was your mindset during that time?
Absolutely. Mental health is very apparent. Just to be full transparent, depression has ran in my family, generational, and I've seen my mom experience it. I've seen it even trace back generations prior, or I've heard about it, I should say.
Okay.
And I can remember with myself going through some times where just feeling a sense of hopelessness and being misunderstood, and just trying to figure out who God had really made me to be. I felt like I was in a world by myself. So what writing did for me is it allowed me to put a pen to some of my thoughts.
Gotcha.
And, even today, as cliche as it may sound, writing and serving and ministry and those things, even now, help my mental health.
Yeah.
Because it's not something where, I think people assume because they feel like, you have this status or you're this and that. It's a everyday choice. To wake up and not still deal with anxiety. Or to not still deal with mental health. So it's very prevalent, and especially in our community. And I'm all for, not getting too ahead of things, but I'm all for a counselor. And I've done counseling as well. Or I've been to a counselor.
You still got a therapist?
Yeah. Love it.
Good, great. Y'all, you guys make me feel good as a therapist. I feel good that I know people that really like, okay, we're advocate for therapy, because a lot of people really like shy away from, especially in the Black community. It's like a stigma, right? It's like,
they're the ones that need it the most.
Yeah, right. My wife and I was talking just yesterday, and she was like, some people was like, you don't need therapy. You don't need therapy. She's like, well, until they go through it and deal with it, they don't know. So hats off to you guys. Thank you. So Miss Bella, though, I know you had to go through a lot, and then to have to help other mothers kind of deal with that kind of stuff. Tell me about that time.
Yeah. It's interesting. I always tell this one small snippet because it's probably the most memorable, I guess, experience. I remember when Bella was she flew out of Rockford on the flight team, and they essentially pronounced her dead, but they was like, we're gonna try to save her real quick. And so they flew her out, and my brother Andre called, and he was just like, prepare yourself. I have really strong brothers, so they like teach me to cope with things, you know. So he got on the phone and he was like, I want you to prepare yourself for whatever you hear when you go in the room. He was like, I don't want to see you falling out. He was like, you strong, you alone. And I remember those conversations, and so I was like, okay. So he was like, so cry it out in the car right now. He was like, go, you got 3 seconds. And I just literally tried to bawl as fast as I possibly could. I was just like, this is really crazy. I was losing my mind. And he's like, all right, now pull it together. Wow. He was like, because you need to be strong when you go in the room. He's like, you can't move off of emotion. He's like, you got to listen. You got to be able to articulate what they say back to you. You got to be able to ask questions, And so I was like, okay. Wow. So I pulled it, I pulled it together, went into the hospital, and the doctor was like, well, there's an oscillator, which is the biggest machine that they could do to try to save her outside of just a regular ventilator. And I was like, okay, and internally though, it's very interesting. I didn't feel sad.
Really?
Because I didn't feel like it was necessarily over. So I didn't really believe them. So I was just like, and I don't think I was in denial. I think I had a faith maybe at 21 that I was just like, she'll be okay. And so the doctor was like, well, no, she's actually not okay. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
And I was like, no. I was like, I'll go to my room. They had a little suite for parents, And I was like, I'll just go to my room, but I'll see you guys in the morning. And I think it really concerned them. I think they thought something was truly wrong with me. So they sent in counselors and stuff the next day, but she was alive. So when I came back in the room, they were like, she's alive. Yeah. I was like, I know. And they were like, "You're right. Like, this is crazy. She was just dead." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "She's alive." So we spent 19 days. They did sedate her, and they kept her down, just to keep her lungs, because her lungs were filled with all kinds of. She had ate some oatmeal, and it got stuck in her lungs. So they had to keep her down just so they could clear that out for 19 days.
What was it that she was actually diagnosed with?
Myasthenia gravis with apnea.
I don't know what that is.
So it's a neuromuscular disease. She's writing a book about it right now.
She is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's really smart.
How old is she?
She's 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
this
awesome.
is her second book. So the first book was just kind of talking about what she has, but this one's going to actually describe it.
Okay.
So essentially, it's a neuromuscular disease where, like, her muscles, we always tell people her muscles don't speak, or her brain doesn't speak to her muscles. They're not friends.
Gotcha.
A lot of times.
Okay.
So some days they're friends, sometimes they're not. And so her book will be about the charger. Like, she's like, her body's like a battery, and there's certain like things that require her body to charge. So like if she has a chair for a few minutes after walking, or if she has her wheelchair, or if she eats some food, these are chargers. And so in her book, she'll talk about like how she can charge her body in ways that kids can help her identify that. So it's an inclusion book, but like, so to sum up what I was like, where I was going with this, the mental health piece of that for me, like, came from really like faith, I think, first, and then having like really strong family members that kind of talked me into understanding like how to process, sadness. So I don't think I was necessarily really sad until like I had to start going through the caregiving phase, which is where I think a lot of people don't realize how hard that is. Like we had to change trachs. We had nursing. I used to call him all the time, like, "Oh, this nurse just made me mad." Like, they would come in without mask, and so I had to be a mama bear by 21. Like I had employees in my home raising my kids. So I had to go from in college, partying, drinking, having fun, to like a mom with nursing in my house, like on a shift. Like, so they were on 8-hour shifts, multiple people in my home. And I think that really tore me down mentally for a while. Even though I could process it just fine, I feel like I saw the aftermath later.
But that was one of the things that tied us together too, because her brother, Troy, had experienced, the loss of his leg. And we actually, I attended his, I don't know if it was appreciation musical or celebration musical.
He proposed to Angelique.
He did propose to Angelique at that concert. I forgot. So I think you overshadowed that night for me, so I forgot all about that. She kept looking at me the whole night.
Really? All right, come on, let's get in.
Didn't even know her.
We definitely was talking about him.
But nevertheless, I reached out to her. Via messenger that night, because I think I had left early, didn't get to speak. Long story short, we connected, but one of the things that really pushed me to even have interest in her was she at that night shared a story about Bella and about what she experienced, and that connected with me. Though I didn't know myasthenia gravis, to hear how she was a caregiver to her, how she didn't give up on her.
That attracted you, huh?
Well, it attracted her to her because my grandmother has ALS. Had ALS. She died. And everybody, it's a genetic disease. And everybody in our family, nobody had lived past 50 with it. And my grandfather had to take care of her with the trach, which is what Bella had. Now my mom has the ALS. And, it's just full transparency, 50% chance that, it can come down to me or my sister or both. But to see her take care of her like that, and to see all of that, it pulled something out of me.
So it sounds like you both met in a tragic time, but more of a time where you guys can kind of breathe for one another.
At that time Bella was somewhat like, she was home. It was still it wasn't to where she's at now, but she was home. It was more of a coming out thing, but it definitely showed how divine the connect was, so to speak.
A divine connection.
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't talk about that. Like,
Absolutely.
We just
They
some people don't even, they don't even want to tell that story. But the fact of the matter that you guys both believe in therapy, you believe in mental health, and the fact that you guys are now moving in a direction that is extraordinary. It's positive. Everything that you guys are doing is positive. And I see you coming. You're consulting and all these things. I'm like proud just to be in the company of you guys, because the community around, especially Rockford, let's just be honest. Rockford has this I don't know if it's a cloud or what it is that is always bringing people down, or it just feels like we can't get up. And so you guys are really shining through that. And let's talk a little bit about how you guys both come out of those I don't want to say tragedies, but these mental health issues. How are you guys being able to push yourselves to do that? You got kids. How many kids you got?
3.
10. It feels like
he has 3 guys, not 10.
3,
so you guys have kids. You have the church here. You have the radio. How are you guys doing all this stuff?
You know, day by day, I think I get asked that in every interview the most. How do you balance everything? And if I'm honest, it's a day by day. I don't always balance it. I don't always do good. I'm not. Something falls short. Sometimes it's my time with her that falls short. Sometimes it's my time with my kids. Sometimes it's my study time. You know, I'm still learning how to juggle it all. But what I can say I've learned this past year is it's okay with maybe this season, this doesn't get the most of my attention.
Gotcha.
So I have to be okay with, okay, maybe this year Soar Radio doesn't get as much as my attention. That doesn't mean stop, but maybe I'm not able to go as hard because I'm telling you, your body will catch up to you.
Oh, I know.
Your body will catch up with you.
I know.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with not getting that time from him?
I'm busy too now.
So it don't matter?
It does. We just talked about this, actually. I was like, look, what we going to do when these kids go? Are we going to like each other?
Right.
We're busy.
Absolutely, right?
You know, so I think just having the conversations. I'm big. I have a therapist, like I was saying. And it's interesting because she's a Black therapist. I always recommend Black women have Black therapists or Black men therapists because they understand the same lifestyle.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
outside of that, she's also a pastor's daughter.
Okay.
And her sister is a pastor's wife. So, like, some days I will share, like, you know, my sadness and something. And she's like, girl, my sister just had that this week. And then she, like, go, like, write down. She'll be like, let me tell you what I told her. Or, like, she'll say, oh, as a pastor's daughter, I remember when that happened to me, you know. And so not only, and a lot of times I don't think what people realize when you always have to share, like, your life with someone, that a lot of people don't understand that conversation. So trying to have someone that doesn't get it is pointless. Like, it's like you're trying to give me advice that you don't understand.
Right.
So she can actually have a conversation with me that makes sense, right? Her mom is a first lady. Her dad's a pastor. Her sister's a pastor's wife. She's a pastor's kid. And so when we have dialogue, I feel heard and I feel seen. And so, like, when I share something with her, like, even when she always goes, what you doing with your husband this week? Like, is y'all doing something? And I'm like, well, you know, this week was really busy. And she's like, find some time, or, you know, she'll say something. So I think having the therapist not only is like a way to vent, but it also is a reminder, you know, of the areas that are lacking, so that, like, a piece of my brain that will lack later, she catches it first. Yeah. So that she almost, like, catches the next sorrow, right?
I get it.
And I appreciate her, like, you know, centering me back, and actually shared that conversation with him, what she told me, you know, about being intentional about date nights and, you know, things like that.
I tell people that all the time, man. You got to be intentional.
Yeah.
How do you feel? I mean, this is your wife, man. You don't get to spend time with her. You spend more time with everything else. How do you feel about being away from her, man?
You know, I can't say that I'm away from her. Okay. One thing, I mean, let me rephrase that. Working, so a lot of people don't know, I actually have a 9-to-5 too. Wow. So, you know, I'm not always as present as I'd like to be. But what I was going to say, a lot of things that we do, whether it be business or whatever, we're usually doing it together. Now, though, that's not the same as one-on-one time. So I'm not justifying that. Absolutely. But so that's what I mean by way. No, it's definitely something that I'm not proud of. Like I said, it's definitely something that I can grow in learning balance, you know. But I also see things as times and seasons. You know, in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, it talks about to everything there's a time and it's a season. So just because
he can make up for it with his money.
That's honest.
Because a lot of women, they
make
don't
some money and I'll be fine.
You could be around them all day, and if you can't produce what they want, then they rather say go out there and work.
Right.
You know. So at the end of the day, but there's a time in the season. So just because it's quote unquote busy season now doesn't mean, and somebody told me one time, they said maximize every call, every email, everything now, because everybody has a prime. Unless you're Beyonce. It's very few people that can live 20, 30, 40 years of a prime. So maximize it while you have it. So at the end of the day, I try every day to do it as much as I can. But I have to be honest. I know sometimes I don't always. But sometimes, even if that's just if she's sharing something with me and me just turning my phone over just so I can listen.
Yeah,
somebody told me
absolutely.
the other day at work, they were like, they turn their phone over in meetings and stuff just so they're tempted not to look at notifications.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll flip it over.
Right.
Because if it's not flipped over, I'm a scroll, so that could be just something simple.
I remember that being that workaholic like that.
Yeah.
I had to check myself on that same thing, and now my wife and I, we talk every day. Before I was just driven. I was driven to get to where I wanted to be, and I don't think I was doing it on purpose. But now I make it a point, no matter how late I get home, because I work a lot of hours.
Yeah.
No matter what time I get home, I try to have a conversation with her. Sometimes she's in the bed, but if she's not, I try to have some type of conversation with her, and then I'll go out, work out, or I get back on my computer and work.
Yeah.
So I get it. But what do you guys do for self-care?
Oh, that's my therapist asks me that every day. Like,
Gym for me.
Oh, so you have time for the gym?
Yeah, I make
Early
time.
morning.
I'm big in choices. You don't have time, but you make time.
Okay.
So I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and that's my gym time. At least about 4 days out the week. Sometimes 5.
Oh, that's good.
Yep, that's pretty much for self-care right now. What my self-care is, I could probably do more. I am by nature a homebody and a loner, but that's also because I'm always, a lot of people don't know I'm an introvert too. So I don't get those times. So I get excited if it's like, if I find out that tomorrow my schedule's clear and I can just chill at home, I'm ecstatic.
Really?
Yeah, because I can just chill. I can relax. So that's self-care for me. Literally relaxing, going to the gym, watching Law and Order. I'm in heaven.
Oh, Law and Order.
Law and Order, yeah.
Good. What do you do for self-care?
I don't. It's embarrassing to say. She asks me that every week though. She's like, "What are you doing this week?" So, well, I'm going somewhere this weekend with my friends.
Okay,
So,
great.
And I don't do that often at all, like probably never. And so, I'm choosing. I said in 2023, I'm going to choose experiences. I'm really, really big on experiences, and I like new things. I like to try new things. I like new foods. I like new places, locations. Like,
Yeah.
and so that's what I'm working on. Like, I'm actually, so tomorrow is going to be a really big experience, and every single day that I can plan experiences, that'll be part of my self-care. But like, I do like to get my nails and stuff done, so I do keep like upkeep, things like that done. And I do go to the gym in these past few months with the Soar Award, or I should say more like a month.
Yeah.
Like this last month I haven't, but it does change my mind when I'm in the gym. So I'll be returning, but that's really all I do right now because I have kids and a lot of stuff going on.
What are you guys doing with your kids? Y'all have that time with the kids so they can know who mommy and daddy is?
Yeah, I do. A lot of people know me on Facebook for like all this stuff. Like right now, actually, our dining room table is like filled with snacks and treats. Because I'm getting ready to make like robots and I usually film it so people can, other parents can do it.
What is that?
I'm going to make like little Valentine robots. So I got a juice box and like a pudding. I'm going to put the little eyes on it and a mouth and little stuff. And I'm going to literally tie it with bows and make one for every single kid in all the classes. So that's probably like 50 or 60 different robots. And then I send them off to school, but I have them usually help me. We make like an assembly line and things like that. But I do stuff like create like slumber parties with tents and like I like experiences for my kids. Every holiday we do, whether it's like a food craft or I make their food into crafts. Like they're so spoiled that their food is cut into like on charcuterie boards and all type of stuff. So they're just used to that. Like a lot of people always say like, how do you have time for that?
Yeah.
But it's just kind of built into what we do.
Okay.
Like, so their food is always pretty. It's got the little garnishings on it, and I do that. We try to do a family vacation every year. So last year we did Disney. And this year, I don't know, I'm looking at maybe Cancun. I have no idea. I'll figure that out. But that's what I do. I always try to, and then from an academic standpoint, I'm really big on that.
Yeah.
A little sad that I haven't been able to pour the same amount of effort into the other two that I did to Bella. But
how old are the other two?
They're 5 now and 3.
5 and 3.
Yeah.
Girls, all girls?
All girls.
Woo.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they're all still really smart. Like, so they have each other as well. So we work on little things. Like I heard Justin, he was in there 2 nights in a row reading to him straight, and so I think we try to jump in where we can, but I've created like
That's
little
good.
bedtime routines to make sure that we're at least doing things, you know, to some extent with them.
Do you guys believe that it's important that they see you both in the success mode and also the parenting, caring mode? Because
Yeah.
sometimes people can't do one or the other. It's like
Absolutely.
you know,
And I know growing up, anytime, whether it was church, whether it was business, whether it was whatever, my mom never just threw me at my grandparents' house.
Gotcha.
My mom took me with her. So just like they're here today with us. I
Yeah.
mean, pretty much everywhere we go for the most part, there's times of rehearsal, you know, even there's times where there's meetings or whatever, they're present.
Yeah.
You know, there's times where it's hard, absolutely, for them. And I'm not saying everything that they do is business, but I think it means more to them instead of me just saying, oh, I'm dropping you off at the grandparents or I'm taking you at this person's house. You can actually see where mommy and daddy are going to. And I
we
think they
also
appreciate
decided
that.
in our marriage to just, if he has like something extra during the week, I remember my resentment, I think, grew up just knowing that I always had to be at church or like locked in a room while they were like kind of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I would be in a separate room by myself for like hours, you know, and then they would do something for church. And I think growing up, that also creates like angry, resentful kids, you know.
Yeah.
And as I got older, my parents would start saying, okay, it was Sunday, let her go to the getaway, you know, after church, you know. And I think they started understanding like I wanted to be a normal kid too.
Yeah.
And so I'll stay back, you know, and I'll just stay home with the kids, you know, so that he can go, because I always tell him if I'm
But we really don't, this generation really doesn't have
much.
really anything. I mean, it's hard to get people to come to church on Sundays.
It is.
So
yeah.
we don't really have much extra. And I am big on, listen, if the kids can go to school, everything else, they can show up to church for 2 hours out the
Gotcha.
week. But we don't have, like growing up, we were in church every day of the week, you know, and
2 or 3
I
times a
wouldn't
week.
put
Yeah.
that. Growing up, I was there 6 or 7 times a week. So I wouldn't put my kids through
Gotcha.
that.
By you growing up as a pastor's daughter and now married to a pastor, and you, like you said, been in church all your life, like where is the balance in all of this stuff when it comes to you two, like thought wise, mindset wise, knowing that this was your life as kids, and now you guys are it. You are the leaders.
I always tell him I wish he would never chose it, but I love him now. I love a lot of people. I love y'all, Soar Assembly. But if I had to have chosen back then, it would still be a hard no.
Yeah.
You know, now I love my church, so I don't know what it would be like, you know, and we've created an experience here that is much different than what we see, you know, in other places. And I like that, you know, and I have the autonomy to say, okay, I don't like children's church. Cool. I can form it over, you know, I can make it how I want it to look,
Wow.
you know, for my kids. So I think I look at it from that angle, or it's like, oh, I didn't like those greeters growing up. You know, they was mean. Okay. Well, these ones got signs that say welcome, you know, like we're happy you are here.
Yeah.
And like, I'll stand out there, like on Christmas, I stood out there in a Christmas tree, literally, and welcome people in. So like I guess, how I look at it is if God gave me like this creative mindset, well, then why not use it? So that's kind of what I've changed my mindset to be. It's like, well, if I have to do this, then I'm going to do it the way that I envisioned it to be. Like, so if I, you know, thought that church should have been more fun for kids, or like, don't put no kids up in no cold basement and read them some scriptures. That's boring. Like, that is boring, you
I
know?
hear you.
So like, I had them set up, like, I remember on Halloween, it was so cool how they set it up down there. They had like lights, and like the kids, like we did a carnival and the kids lost their mind. Actually, his mentor's kids to this day be like, we're going back to the church with the carnival. Like, I mean, you know, we've created that experience that people always know. You know, like we're going to get a word, we're going to get it, you know, we're going to get some good music, but we also going to, you know, this going to be home, you know? And so I take my, like, I can't preach, I can't sing, I can't do none of that. But what I can do is I can use my brain to like grow things. And so that's what I've kind of taken the role to do.
Before we switch gears, I want to touch on that, what you were kind of saying, the worship and the pastoring. Like I've seen you from around town, and you were a worshiper. You were a worship leader, and then you maturated into the pastor now, and you incorporate both of those. How difficult is that to be worship leader, pastor, and balancing all of that?
Yeah, it's not difficult at all.
Okay.
You know, I think it was what I was created to do. So I enjoy it. I don't pick one over the other. You know, I believe that praise and worship sets the tone, you know, and I think sometimes people see because they see me on, but I really don't like, we have some awesome worship leaders. So I try at my absolute hardest to not lead a song on Sunday. And there's times where different leaders are out of town or sick or different things, so I have to step in. But for the most part, they can handle it. You may see me, exhort a little bit or something prior to preaching, and it just sets the atmosphere. But I enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. I was a worship leader at different churches for about 15 years before pastoring.
Yeah.
So I did it at churches that had just started. I did it at churches that had more members in the praise team than the audience. I did it in churches that were Baptist. I did it in churches that were Kojic. I did it in apostolic. So I know what it's like to be in all those different houses. I know what it's like, with different atmospheres. So it's something I enjoy doing. And pastoring, there's so many other people that can sing better than me. There's so many other people that can preach better than me. But I can authentically say the way and the style that God has literally shaped it to be is something different. And I enjoy doing it because it's just me being me on Sunday. I don't have to put on a certain voice. I don't have to, and it's no offense to people that do. I don't have to run across the pews. I don't have to, I can just be who you see me on Sunday, Wednesday. I'm the same. And that's what I think makes this experience dope.
I think that's the balance of you two. I'm just listening to you guys, and I'm hearing, I think the creativity that you have bringing to his leadership, I think that works well. And you being a leader too. So let's talk about how this come to be. Soar. I mean, the church, the radio, the big events that you have, the celebrityism. Let's talk about that. How did that form in you guys' psyche? Where did that come from?
Well, so there's so many different elements. I'll start with Soar Assembly. I guess. So I'm not going in any particular order, but Soar Assembly started, we just celebrated 4 years as being an entity. And I was actually I was a assistant pastor of a church I was at and actually set up to be the successor at that church. And I think I was leading worship there and assistant pastor and going on almost about 7 to 8 years. And I'm grateful for the past pastor because I do believe God had told him that I was supposed to be a pastor, just wasn't supposed to be there.
Okay.
And, I was praying and God had told me, now mind you, I never wanted to pastor. I saw myself as traveling. I saw myself as doing everything musically right. Never saw myself pastoring.
You want to do that still?
And I still am able to do it. I still am able to do it, but I can't abort the call.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. That was a good one.
Just kidding, Soar.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I'll never forget. It was like God had told me, you're supposed to start your own ministry. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't have anybody to start it with. At that time, I felt like there was just a new church starting every week in this city, and I was like, I'm good on that. I didn't see myself as pastor. I'm just like, I don't have what it takes. I brought it up to her. Next thing you know, start researching it. I held a vision meeting, I think at the North Loft. We started the vision meeting. We had launch meetings, went into Bible study. We were having launch meetings, went into the first Sunday of our service, 6 months into it, or maybe 4 months prior, with 100 members. Here we held service at the North Loft for about 6 months. We were able to purchase a building 6 months after. And it's even crazy how that story happened because God had told me, I remember I went to the church June 2nd, we had our first service, had a dream. God told me June 30th, you're going to have a church within a year. Now I was like, like a building. I'm sorry. I was like, that's not going to happen. I told the church within a year, we're going to have the church. God said we got to start saving up. Matter of fact, I had her father come preach at Build This House campaign. So literally the church that we were supposed to get was supposed to be, it had been sitting vacant for years. They didn't accept our offer. All this different stuff, was kind of discouraged because we had raised all this money. Long story short, within the next day, Pastor Copeland was getting ready to put, New Zion on the market. And it's just crazy because it literally was going on the market Monday, talked to him Thursday. It was literally, he was selling it for the same amount that they declined our offer for. So It was just crazy. Things aligned. We're at like 220 on roll. We see about 130-ish a week.
Okay.
I love the people at Soar. I hear all these horror stories about People don't like pastoring. People don't enjoy it. I love pastoring.
Yeah.
Sure, there are hard days. Sure, there's hard seasons. Sure, that you go through transitions. But I love what I do, and I wouldn't have it any other way at Soar Assembly. Soar Radio happened about 8 years ago. I had been doing ILGMC, which was a local event. Actually, my late godmother, who had on her deathbed, said, "You're supposed to be my godson," the late Ann Holloway. And her and Walter Washington had always did the I Love Gospel Music conventions, if people remember, at St. Paul. And she said, "I want you to keep this alive, son. Keep this alive." And I did the event for a couple years, and it brought so many people in the community, years from Kirk Hart to Percy Gray to DeAndre Patterson. We did it for a few years, and I was talking to a friend, Chris, who does marketing in Mississippi, and I said, "I wish I had a radio station that could sponsor the Soar and the ILGMC." And he said, "Why don't you?" And I said, "There isn't one." He said, "Create your own." And I was like, "I don't want to do it." And before you know it, called my cousin Kenneth, who's an engineer on other stuff. Before you know it, a month later, Soar Radio happened, and it just so happened that WNTA a month before that had canceled all of the Black Christian programming because they had been bought out by somebody.
Wow.
And yeah, within a couple years of that, Soar Awards kind of came about. Just because of, I was like, the whole method of having workshops throughout the whole week is just changing. The dynamic of church is changing. And as we did our last event, which was actually the day before our wedding, we did it all in one weekend. I said that it was time to do Soar. And in doing the Soar Awards, which this would have been year 7 had COVID not have happened and canceled a year. But we were able to be the first BDS monitored station by Nielsen. That kind of changed the game. Labels started taking us serious. It gave us some leverage. And that's kind of how Soar Awards started. And when I tell you, it's still literally surreal that, and I just made a post today, like, when it comes to music, people know I love the singer Brandy. I love Kurt Franklin, love Jay Moss growing up, and I love the Clarks individually and collectively. And just to know that they don't really travel a whole lot these days as a collective, they're 60s, 70s, and the fact that they're doing this, coming for nothing, and it's because they're like, we love you. They've been coming every year separately, but just so it's surreal. The fact that Soar Radio is like this thing, the Soar Awards, people from France are coming, people from Africa, and it's grown to be a phenomenon that I would have never known it to be. It's literally the second biggest gospel award show.
How does someone from small town Rockford reach out to all those powerful people and get them in one place?
They love him. Like they love Justin. It's interesting. I didn't believe it either.
Really?
I did not believe it.
Wow.
And when I seen it, they literally call him by name. He texts these people. I be telling people I don't be trying to hype his head up because
hype his head up. It's okay. Hype him up.
But I be trying to tell people. I think that sometimes I don't think people really realize what is happening here. There's no you watch the Grammys. We are the Grammys of gospel. There is nothing else besides the Stellar Awards.
Right.
And we're climbing. They know who we are. The Dove Awards just posted this press release. They know who we are. And so that's a huge deal. Artists like Jennifer Hudson. What? She just calls our phone the night before. Hey, by the way, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
Be there. Should I pay for some tickets? And offer to pay for her own tickets,
For 7 people.
Yeah, for 7 people, and brought them. They all came through the door. And I remember they had that picture of her holding his hand. She literally went to him and said, "This is amazing. And every year I can be here, I will be."
She did.
Wow.
And so I tell people, I'm it's not, and I know we don't really say much, so I think a lot of people don't we don't really toot our own horns or
you shouldn't.
Anything.
Because everybody else does it for you, right?
Yeah, but I don't think people realize.
Y'all are not the traditional pastor and pastor wife. The traditional.
What is
church.
tradition? Though?
Right. And they're. I don't want to say, I'm not going to get into that, but you guys are pushing the envelope a little bit when it comes to ministry, Christianity, and it looks different.
Absolutely. I wear jeans to church a lot of Sundays.
He looked like that.
Yeah. Some Sundays
like
I
this.
literally do.
Yeah.
And some Sundays I'm like, I just want to dress up.
Yeah.
It just, but why not?
I think that helps people because, especially this day and time, people want to be able to come as they are, right?
Absolutely.
They don't want to have to dress up in a 3-piece suit or.
Well, you don't want
no shade at them.
wear your Steve Harvey suit. It's okay. We
no,
support it.
right?
Yeah.
No
You come to
shade.
the Soar Awards with it.
Yeah, okay. See, but no shade. It's just that and that's people want to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to come and learn Christianity, what God has for you, I think you should be able to be comfortable.
Absolutely.
Well,
But I don't think a lot of pastors either put a lot of pressure on them to do that either. But I'm just saying.
Well, if I'm just being honest, and I'm not going to go too hard into it, I think we should definitely do our research. And Justin always, I'm too woke, baby, but but I study this for a living, and I just want people to understand that the reason we dressed up was because that was the only day that we could actually have time as slaves.
Absolutely.
And so, it's okay if you just didn't choose to wear a suit today, because the origin of that is actually us going backwards in time. And if you got some sweats and a t-shirt on and that's what you came to church in today, God is not judging you.
Right.
And I think that we've traditionalized what it looks like to go to church because of past experiences, because it was just passed down over time without really truly understanding the origin of where it came from. And if everybody actually understood the origin, then they just wouldn't. I wouldn't say you shouldn't dress up, because if you go to Beyonce concert, if you go to her concert, you gonna dress up, right? You gonna put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
So absolutely,
Don't
if
get
that's
your
the
outfit.
outfits.
Yeah.
It might be a two change,
Right.
Because I love
But
her.
how you gonna have enough money for the outfit after you buy the ticket?
Hey, that's right. That's
We ain't
right.
gonna worry about the ticket.
You got the money, she said.
But
He paid it all.
Yeah.
but I think that we just have to also be careful how we are catching the fish. Like I did something like that for my dad's team at church. Just how are we catching our fish today?
I get it.
And just be careful with your expectation on people.
But people, I think somebody, and I usually don't read comments, but sometimes people tag it to me.
Yeah.
But somebody had just commented on one of the pages, "Oh, you're so sinful. You're all of this," because I have Kiki Wyatt coming on the awards this year. You need to read your Bible and all this. So I mean, people are so in that. And I just sent them the link and said,
but they
buy
need to
your
call
tickets
you
at
as a therapist, because I don't think people we ain't gonna go there.
Okay, look, and that's a great segue too, because what are you seeing? What are you guys seeing from the community as a whole? I already talked about how Rockford has its cloud, but what are you guys seeing when you do stuff like the Soar Awards? As far as the community support, the pushback, all that, what are you guys seeing?
When you say community, do you mean local community or national?
Local.
What do I see? I don't really pay attention. I don't read a lot. What I will say, though, is I appreciate all the love that we've gotten for this when we did the press release, the from the mayor to the city of Rockford to, the Visitors Bureau, and so many of them have been kind to us. Okay. And they have definitely got on board financially and helped support us collectively, a lot of organizations. As far as individuals and as far as community, I don't really know. One thing that I've always prided myself, and I'm going to give y'all some free good advice.
Good advice.
I think everything don't have to have a price to it.
That's
so
right.
You'll get
That's
that when
right.
you get home. But one thing that I'm really big on is build a brand that is beyond you. I made a mistake at the beginning with Soar Radio by putting my face on everything. My face was on the flyers. My face was on everything. My name was on everything. But what happens is if people don't like me, if they have an issue with me, they're going to stop supporting it.
Yep.
One thing that I did, and I'm strategic about, not just Soar Radio. No, it was
You
before
told that.
It was actually before you. Can't take that credit.
Somebody trying to get some credit.
Because I was like, why you got your face on everything?
But Soar, no, you said that for different reasons as far as with flyers, yeah. But and that's why you sitting in that seat today. But as far as with the Soar Awards, if you pick up that flyer or you see a sponsor ad, You don't know who the founder is. You don't know who the creator is. You don't see the name or picture. And that's okay because the brand is bigger than me.
Absolutely.
And so if you like me, if you don't, if you feel this way about me, you're going to support because you love Leandra Johnson. You love the Clark sisters. So you're going to buy your ticket. And I think sometime locally we are in this phenomenon. Either it's two things. Either your products suck, and sometimes that's the case, or you have it where it's so partnered with you that where people can't disassociate who you are from the brand. At the end of the day, I want it to be where you love and respect the brand, the product. It don't matter about me.
That sounds like maturity to me.
Okay.
That's exactly what it sounds like. You started out, you know, you were into it, you were going, and now you just evolved.
Yeah.
So in that evolving, how do you work together? How do y'all work together? Because y'all know that's a thing, like how husband and wife works together, that's not good. Talk.
I feel like I've done a lot of talking.
How do y'all work together?
I always tell people that anybody that work on the award show, we are not husband and wife during this time.
Oh.
Because we will literally go back and forth. Like, not saying we're not married, but don't see us as the Francises. We are literally business partners right now.
Gotcha.
And so he hires me to do a job. Well, kind of. I'm kind of doing it for free, but I'm doing a job that I pride myself on because a lot of people that do know me, I worked in operations management for most of my career. And so I run operations all day. I can do anything in my head that you tell me. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. I can build anything from the ground up.
Gotcha.
So like we have to, he's a visionary.
Okay.
So he sees things and it's like, it's got to have it like this. Like, and we like, whoa, what's the system? Like, let's bring the system back. And he's like, I don't care about the system. This is what I want. And I'm like,
the wheels are turning right now.
I think I just have to remind everybody that works with it, whether it be her, mom, whoever, you know, don't take it all personal. Don't take it to heart.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to remember, anytime you are the visionary or anytime, whether it be her consultant, whatever, it's going to be your baby. So we're going to be more sensitive about something that we've given birth to, unarguably. But don't take it sensitive. Don't take it sensitive.
We just go back and forth until it's over. And then
it doesn't bother me. I sleep.
We take a deep breath when the show's over. We all get happy and see that it went well. And we move on. But I think it requires both. Like he said, his mom and I are very similar. We pretty much, our brains pretty much run the same, which is interesting. He married someone just like his mom. But his mom is extremely brilliant and extremely into, like, everything is like, her spreadsheets are color coded. I mean, there's nothing that's not thorough about Michelle.
Gotcha.
And so, like, we both, like, I'll call her when I have a problem. Like, you should call him because this just took place. Then she'll call him. She's like, well, I got the same response. Like, so, like, we try to, like,
so you
and I have to remind her.
Up now.
I got to remind her who's your. I'm talking about when I heard my mom. Whose side are you on? To my mom. Like, who? I'm out here on the island by myself, but it's okay. It's okay. It's all good.
I'm the chosen child.
I get it.
I'm chosen.
So look, we could go all day.
Yeah.
But as we get ready to wrap up, like, talk a little bit about the purpose of the Soar Awards, and then you both give some advice to couples that are working together, just in individual successes. Like, leave some advice for the audience.
I'll say Soar Awards. The purpose of the Soar Awards is basically to expose the mainstream artists, those with a major platform, and the indie artists. Just to give some advice. Best advice I've learned: Joyce Meyer's "Just Do It Afraid." Go forth, do it afraid. Just keep it sweet and simple.
When you work with your spouse, like, we do separate the two in those moments because we do have to get things done. And so it's not personal or it's not a bash on our actual marriage. Like, we know that we're both doing a job and we both have perspective. And but what we do is we also celebrate each other. So, like, I think over the past 7 years, we've taught each other to celebrate one another. Like, I don't think it was always that way, but I think we started to learn how one felt when one wasn't celebrated versus how one wants to be spoken to when they're celebrated. And we've kind of worked through that over the years. And so now I kind of just know, how to kind of leverage the positive, and then when I need to hit them with some negative, I might sandwich it, or maybe I won't at all, but we've just figured it out. He understands, and then we just move on. So like he said, it's not really personal. We just got to get it done, and if we both want it to be excellent, we both are perfectionists in that way, then that's just it is what it is.
All right, plug your the event.
Yeah, the event takes place Monday, March 6th at the Coronado Theater, downtown Rockford. You can get your tickets right now. Ticketmaster. We're honoring Dr. Holly Carter, Donald Lawrence, Jacqueline Carr, Kiera Shear, Todd Delaney, Isabel Davis are hosting. Kiki Wyatt's going to be performing. The Clark sisters separately and individually. Leandra Johnson. Enough said.
That's it.
Your business.
Oh, well, I'm over Ignite Change Solutions. So if you guys have an organization that is not putting equity first, not putting inclusion first, not putting diversity first, that needs some organizational support, we provide that at Ignite Change Solutions. And you can find us at ignitechangesolutions.com or info@ignitechangesolutions.com.
Great. I would like to thank Justin and Rebecca Francis. This has been lovely.
Awesome.
I
Thank
truly
you.
appreciate it, man. I support you guys till the wheels come off, because at the end of the day, you're doing something positive in the community, and I definitely do appreciate that. Right before we go, though, make sure you guys subscribe to Mentality Unchained anywhere you get your podcasts. I'm on YouTube as well. Also, February the 11th, it's Saturday, February 11th at 9 to 3 at the Norloft, 118 North Main Street. We're having a men's conference called A Safe Place. And this simply we are coming together as men, discussing and talk about what men go through when it comes to mental health. And also we ask that you guys please go out and support Justin on his event, and also follow Miss Rebecca wherever she does her work with the Ignite Solutions. And like I always say before I get out of here, we all have the ability to change our circumstances, only if we focus on what we can change. So thank you guys for showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you.